is now time for raising funds for World Domination, day number 127. So, once again, we got no changes on the renovation front. Things have been continue to be very quiet, which is great. And continuing with the series, we're going to be working toward the next release of the terminal block mining simulation game. So I guess one could ask, like, when will be the next release? That would be a good question. I think it's conceivable. It's conceivable that within like a week, I could of these daily streams, I could probably have some of the main slowness resolved that I'm trying to work on. So the main thing I want to do is get a bit of better performance before the next release. So there's at least some tangible improvement. But we'll see. The main work, the main kind of really difficult speculative work about the fancy new layer merging, that's been done. But yeah, I think it's conceivable within a week. I guess depending on how many things I want to try and optimize, I guess I could probably spend more than that. I know it's not particularly exciting. I'd really like to get onto more of the new exciting features and stuff, but that'll make them even more exciting if the game's actually fast. And then, so this has been on the to-do list. I thought I fixed this, and then I thought I saw it come back, so that's why I left it on the list. I didn't see this. I don't recall seeing this issue last night, so maybe I really did fix it. If I don't see this for one more day, then I'll remove this item from the list. But yeah, I guess the other thing is I can write as a note. Yeah, so one of the things, once I get the next release out, I need to do a push for to monetize more, get more, do another push for more memberships and increase monetization a bit, because I haven't focused on that in a while. So I also posted on the Patreon, as well as I did a community post here on YouTube. So I figured before I start trying to get new members and solicit more super chats and stuff. There's a bunch of people who have been serial super chatters, and people have been, already contributed quite a bit. I figure I might as well. The first priority should go to anyone. So if anyone out there who's listening, if any of you are people who have previously, I'll put it at, like, if you've done, if you've your cumulative contributions of memberships or super chats at some point, just at any point in the past, have been at least $20, and you want your own dedicated block type in the game, let me know, and I'll and the terms of this offer are on if you check the community tab of my page. So it has to be a natural mineral ore, so that's what I'm doing first. And if you know the cast number, that's good. But if not, I can look it up. Orthoplex 64, how's it going? Oh, it's day. Oh, it is day 0B 11111. Nice. Yeah, so that's it for the intro. Let's see. All right, let's run this first. All right, it works. For good measure, let's run the tests, make sure that nothing's broke. So last night I did some kind of just simple changes, changed the accessor methods and changed from public to private. Interestingly, so putting in the accessor methods, I was kind of worried it would make it slower, but it actually made it slightly faster, at least from the imprecise couple test runs I did. But then on this machine, when I changed the accessor from public to private, that actually seemed to make it slightly slower. But then when I tried it on my other machine, it actually seemed like it was slightly faster with that. And I Googled for it a bit, and I did see some. Oh, there's my phone is corrupting the cable. I Googled for it a bit, and there were some references where some people said that in some cases it can actually be slightly different performance, public, private. But they said, like, I guess over time, as the JVM warms up and some caching stuff happens, then or the just-in-time compilation stuff does its thing. Depending on various factors, it may become negligible over time, but I probably won't worry about it. I'll stick with just making a private, better design. And tonight, I'll do an experiment, because now that I have those the members, so for each column in the screen, there's a few different members. Currently, I have them in just like an array of primitives, but I think it'd be nice if they were encapsulated in their own class. So I think I might experiment with that tonight. Okay, so so this took 126. It's similar to last night. I think last night I tested it was 123 or something. So I guess it could be plus or minus 3 thereabouts. So what I'm going to change, maybe, so these 5 members, I used to just access them directly. I think I may put those in a class. And we'll see if there's any performance difference. And if the performance is really bad, then maybe I'll have to stick with these primitive arrays. So we'll call this screen layer column. Let's make sure that compiles. Orion Sterling Young says, yo, how's it going? The DTJ Real MC says, good evening. How's it going? No sound? Oh, is there no sound? Plenty of sound? That'd be disappointing if my sound wasn't working. I just looked over at my my PC. My volume bar is moving, but I also see there's a thing that says there's an error. So I guess it's conceivable that the audio broke, but I know there are examples of times I've seen where like it doesn't where audio like won't work for specific people or something. But I guess if it's working for one of you, then if I guess if other people can't hear me, then someone else will point it out. Stressing out about all things to learn about programming. So I'm playing RuneScape. How do you relieve stress? Relieve stress. I don't know. I guess I just, pursuing my own thing, my own business, makes it so I set my own structure and my own hours and stuff like that. So, I guess I wake up, I work as much and as long as I want on things. And when I have to take a break, I just take a break. So I guess in that respect, it makes it easier. But then again, I also have much more money stress and stuff. I guess after many years of experiencing being in a continuous state of stress, I just don't feel stress anymore. So I guess maybe the answer is I don't. I have no money, so it's easy not to stress it. Yeah, same. If you have none, why worry? Well, there are deadlines and obligations and stuff. Those will, if you don't meet those deadlines and obligations, then you default on payments and you go broke. And then you get evicted for real. Perfection is weakness. Life, I guess probably life will never not be stressful. Maybe. I don't know what I could say about the statement that perfection is weakness. Only worry about being single. Well, that's a problem I can't advise you on. Life is a vacation. You just gotta turn that frown upside down and think positive. nice. We got a new channel member. Welcome to the student here to Sia BGU. Weren't you going to add a data app feature to the block mining game so people could block mine while scoping out dates? A data app? A dating app feature? I don't know. Maybe there was some musing about that during a past stream. I don't remember that conversation, but I can't prove that it didn't happen. Yeah, it's possible. Yeah, I mean, from what I've heard about the dating apps out there, they sound pretty bad. So it could become the #1 dating app in town. Guys, I'm about to try to resurrect an old Dell 720 with new RAM. Wish me luck. Don't forget to run mem test. We'd solve so many problems at once. Lonely block miners finding love. Yeah, I don't know. I think the gender distribution might be kind of biased though. That might be one significant challenge. But I guess now that if you guys saw my community post, I edited a color theme for a pink color theme. So that should increase the gender diversity and inclusivity. What is RM test? Mem test. Actually, if you search my channel, I think I have one video where I describe what mem test is. I think it's a shorts video. It has all caps title. It's a picture of my desktop computer. I think the title is like computer memory failure in all caps. And that'll give you an intro to what mem test is. Turns it on. Get two beeps for RAM. Hopefully new RAM will fix. Floyd is no rain. I don't know what that's related to. I'll check it out. Thank you, man. yeah, it's good to check, especially if you are swapping around the RAM on an old PC, just to make sure you don't have any memory failures. Or you can have CPU, or if the motherboard has bad capacitors on it. That's apparently a common problem. Mortal Kombat. Okay, Mortal Kombat reference, I guess. I'm looking for shoes to buy, but I won't buy any because they are too expensive and all suck. That's a pretty random. That's a very random statement given the context, but I can absolutely relate to that because shoes are getting insanely expensive. I find if you try to cheap out, like the shoes are just terrible. I remember I bought one. I tried to find a cheaper pair at Walmart, and the bottom was like, it was completely flat. Like I'd never had a shoe that was so odd before. It was just flat, and it was extremely, extremely slippery. Like it was almost like the company that made it had never manufactured shoes before, and they just made them out of like plastic or something. It's at least like $200 for a decent pair now. Turned on, fans run, but no post. No post. Does it anything show up in the monitor? Professional Pet Sim 99 player says hee. This doesn't work. I've literally tried everything. Honored this PSC and held its hand till the very end. How old are you? I am 38. I know where you live. That's a random thing to say. Those Brahim steel toe shoes from Walmart are good. Save me from getting run over by jacklifts. Yeah, I guess if you work in that environment, that could be pretty, really save your bacon. A bit heavy though for just going for a walk. Looks to the side, 38. Are you even sure? It changes all the time. As you get older, time just keeps going by faster and faster. Just got some Reebok steel toe from Scamazon. Yeah, Amazon can be a gamble. If you want walking shoes, get a nice pair of Pumas. Yeah, you know what? I do need a new pair. My existing pairs wearing pretty thin. Just found out how to sell stuff in RuneScape. I was focusing on C++, but I think I'll do C-style, then Rust, but that's not for a long time. Do you have experience with Rust? I do not. People, I know it's a big fad with a lot of people, but I only have so many hours in the day. There's too many languages to learn, too many frameworks. Pumas are the most comfy shoe I've ever had. Kind of thin, but lightweight. Yeah, maybe I will be in the market for them sometime soon. Actually, I might be able to push it until next year. This year is almost over. Maybe next spring I'll get a new pair. undefined behavior, and seg fault prevention. Yeah, I've had enough seg faults and fun with Valgrind and stuff that's people have asked me why I didn't write this program in C or C++, and I went with Java just because of the memory safety. And a lot of people don't like Java, but I think it's pretty good. All right, that might just work. That'll be awesome if it did. All right, let's see what kind of performance that gives. I misspelled columns. Our standard library is anemic. You're encouraged to use random packages by random people. That's not cool. What if they're all full of malware? I'm going to win the Powerball. Excellent. That's good. Are you using JMH? I'm not familiar with what that is. JMH, open source microbenching tool, part of OpenGDK. Interesting. I did not know that existed. JMH. I'll have to make a note of that right now. All right, we got one more error. 219. It's not good. Yeah, I guess there's no default value set. JFR? I'm not familiar with that either. There's so many useful tools that I've just never been exposed to. Java Flight Recorder, built into OpenGDK. Low overhead production profiling. I'll write that down too. There is a tool, what I've been using for getting feedback on the performance. Visual VM is I just run it in Visual VM and then connect to it with a command with this like JMX thing, and then I just click a button to sample, and then I run around and do the behavior that's really slow. And so far that's been good, but it may be useful to check out these tools as well. Java? How do you deal with memory? Do you get issues with undefined behavior? Not very familiar. Do you prefer specific versions? How do you deal with memory? So the memory, Java's garbage collected, so that's one of the massive advantages. It is still necessary though. Sometimes you will have to do some investigation. Like I did have to actually rewrite. Like for the chunk loading, I actually did have to use a profiler to like keep track of how I was dealing with these like regions of space that I was allocating a lot of deallocating a lot of these chunks of memory, and I think the garbage collector was having trouble like recapturing all these deallocated spaces, so I had to like rewrite the code in a way to be more respectful of memory. I think I had to use a different type of hash map or something. And for that, I used a profiler. I used Visual VM, which I mentioned before. Issues with undefined behavior. I have not run into cases where undefined behavior mattered for me in Java. I'm sure there are probably undefined behavior, but I don't think it's as big of an issue as in like C or C++. Do you prefer specific versions? Not particularly. The current version has basically all the language features that I want. I'm not really a huge fan of like all the syntax sugar and stuff that most people use. Is that consistent with the previous defaults? Probably not. Right, maybe this will work. All right, it's not horribly slow. That is a very good sign. Now let's run the tests. Let's see if the performance is substantially different. So I guess it's not there. I think it was 126. So this should take on the order of 120 seconds in total to finish. At least that's how long it took before. $127. Okay, that's not bad. That's, I think, within the margin of like statistical error. So it might be basically just the same performance. That's good. I will keep this change. So that should dramatically simplify future changes. So I think the next piece of cleanup I was going to do was I think I might change the convention on how multi-column characters are represented. Because I thought about it, and I think I might have come up with a way to speed up a lot of the whole like character overlap detection code and stuff. It has to do a bunch of like scanning through the layer to look for neighboring overlapped characters. And I think there's a change I can make that'll make it faster. Oh, we should actually add some validation. So hopefully this will allow me to simplify this merge function. that's probably good enough. Were you into photography before making your videos? They look very cinematic. Yes, I have. When I started university, I bought a nice camera and started taking pictures. Honestly, the videos, like the more cinematic looking ones, it's actually not. It's not particularly hard to make those. It's just extremely time consuming. Because for most of them, you have to have you can take decent photos with a smartphone camera, but the primary, one of the reasons why the pictures or videos don't necessarily look like good or cinematic, it's mainly just because of the optical properties of the lens. So for example, a few of them, like one of my last videos about the job one, I'm zoomed into a highway, and for that I have a telephoto lens. So actually some of the newer smartphone cameras, they have a super advanced synthetic apertures, and they are getting some really impressive telephoto looking shots. Some of them are they're using, I think, an absurd amount of AI and stuff in them now to kind of fake it, but primarily if you're actually measuring real analog photons, you just have to have you physically need a physically large piece of glass. I'd say actually one of the most instructive and profound pieces of advice I'd have about photography is that in physics, physically speaking, photons are actually very rare. You would think when you go outside and open your eyes and look at the sun, there's photons everywhere. But when it comes to photography, if you actually do the numbers on how many pixels are in a given sensor area, and if you have a certain light level, the number of photons falling on a given pixel of the camera sensor, and then for a given point, for a given RGB value, for say you have RGB value 100, the red value is 100, you could equate that to how many photons that equals, and it's actually actually don't have the math on the top of my head, but it would be I think you would be impressed by how many photons can change the value of a pixel up or down at a given point in the sensor area. And that's especially, and it depends on the frame rate and stuff too. So if you're filming slow motion or something, 125 frames a second, ideally it would be a high number. Yeah, it's but it's like when if you're filming something at night and you have like a really wide aperture lens, and then you turn the ISO up very high, you're getting like very, very close to like the physical. You're basically, you can get better stuff if you go with like military grade night vision and stuff like that, but there's only so many photons you can squeeze out, and then you can maybe go to like different parts of the spectrum. There's like lower energy thermal photons and stuff, but I guess it makes sense. The photons are rare. The human eye can detect even one photon. Yeah, I've heard like some owls and stuff can see like 6 times less bright conditions. Honestly, I think personally, I think this is an understudied phenomena. And I actually wouldn't even be surprised if like certain like visual problems are like related to the fact that our senses operate a lot closer to the noise floor than we think they do. The same thing with hearing. I remember watching a lecture by a physicist who was talking about like that big the black hole sensor that they have. They have a bunch of these black hole observatories around the Earth. They use it to like pinpoint black hole mergers. And he was talking about a theoretical black hole merger of like a certain size black hole. And in this lecture, I remember he mentioned if these two black holes of this size merged, he says it would actually be in the range of human hearing. I thought that was an incredible idea, that you could theoretically be sitting there and hear noise, and you would actually be hearing the sound of a black hole merging. Which is an interesting idea. I mean, it makes you think about like medieval medieval kinds of thousands of years ago, the way they would explain phenomena like that if you're just randomly hearing stuff. The idea of high quality pixels over number of pixels. Samsung ran into that problem with their 100 megapixel camera. Too high density, not enough data. Yeah, it's just not enough photons out there. Amount of post-processing by our brain after the fact smooths that out though. Yeah, it's there's the biology of human vision is interesting. I'm not exactly sure what kind of binning window it has. I mean, it might even have like a variable frame rate. Effectively, there's like a certain, there's an opsin molecule that can get created, and depending on like the shape of this protein, it determines the frequency response to a given photon, and so that's how you end up with I forget if it gets cones. I think cones is the color one. You end up with there's like 3 different shaped proteins that each have a different frequency response, and when a photon hits it, there's like an arm of the protein that moves up to a higher energy state, and then to transmit the signal, when it transmits the signal, it drops back down, or like basically folds its arm back. Do you see at UC Berkeley? They mapped some people's eye cones and used lasers to induce a blue-green more saturated than normally perceptive. Yeah, I remember someone mentioned that in a chat at one point. I haven't seen the original source. Google AI account 1 says boop. But where's the beep? Beep. There we go. James Goodrich sends $17. 17 is a nice number. Guaranteed to be fair, especially when chosen by fair dice roll. Interesting. Nice number. Is that a mathematical term? It's interesting how seemingly random numbers have all these important properties. I remember learning about in linear algebra that the cross product is only defined in, I think, 3 dimensions and 7 dimensions. But I guess it skips everything from 3 to 7. Messed up the XKCD quote. I remember XKCD. I used to, that was kind of one of my first, connections to the academic world, back even before I came to university. I used to read that comic. I haven't read that in quite a while. First fair should be random. Guaranteed to be random. So if you have a 17-sided die, "17 is a good inner wall length in Minecraft because torches can be placed evenly on it in many ways. Since 1 less than a highly composite number." It's interesting how much optimization there is that people have done around Minecraft. And it's funny when you think about it, because there's so much work to work on building stuff to the constraints of the Minecraft game engine. But if you just changed how the game's code works, you could dramatically simplify all the structures and stuff. All the chunk loading workarounds and stuff. James, if you, I mentioned before about a sponsored block type. I can't remember. Did you get back to me on that? I'll have to check my messages. If not, mastering all the trivia is part of the fun. I think programmers secretly do that too. Yeah, I mean, at some point you get trivia exhaustion, because the trivia becomes meaningless. It basically just becomes memorizing a set of bugs that another computer programmer wrote it's much more fun to learn like mathematical and intrinsically algorithmic stuff. Because even if it's like, you could say, you know, some mathematical things are useless, but that's more of a cynical thing. Like, you technically could find some application of an obscure mathematical fact, but obscure facts about Minecraft generation are not an intrinsic property of the universe. It's just an accident of a programmer on a tight deadline. I did not, although I jokingly said I wouldn't mind something about the inventory. Oh yeah, I vaguely remember that. Yeah, for most stream conversations, you should make the assumption that I'll forget, because at this point we're on day 127. That's like 127 times 2.5 hours of conversations. It's too much to fill up my brain, and I'm also distracted. Takes time to build up an appreciation for underlying concepts. Early on, the trivia seems more practical. Yeah, that's how I felt learning about the C programming language. One 27 is power of 2 minus 1. That's true. Oh yeah, day 127. Yeah, someone else, Orthoplex, mentioned that it's also, well, I guess that's actually the mathematically the same thing. It's 0B, 1 1 1 1 1, and 7 ones. All right, now I'm gonna change some of the tests to use a safer, more encapsulated way of initializing multi-column characters. And then I'm going to introduce, I think, a new technique. Basically, I'm going to have, what I used to do is in the first column, I'd have the width, I'd specify the width, and then the rest would be zeros. But instead, I'm going to specify the first will be the width, and then after that, I'll use negative values. So I'll start with like negative 1, 2, 3, 4. And then that's going to specify the index, the offset back to the start of the character. So that way, if I'm scanning through in the middle of a character, I can tell how far I can tell how far back the start of the character is, and I can determine the width of the character. Which is not true currently. I have to actually scan in the worst case scenario, because I don't know how long a wide character could be. There are cases where I'm going to have to scan through the entire layer, which introduces slowness. Put together any benchmarks yet? I haven't done my benchmark is basically just like run my unit test and then see how long that takes. So far, I'm not super concerned with like I guess micro benchmarking. I already know it's already very obvious where the problem is. It's in the screen layer. I just ran the profile and I can see it's in here. So this this function is crazy. So with a consequence of the refactoring will be basically some more information about the width of characters and the offsets will be pre-calculated. So this monstrosity here the goal of this piece of refactoring will be I can do basically this and then the width down here. Yeah, current character widths is just that'll be basically just like a much more simple lookup. There's a couple of calculations to do, but I believe I will be able to remove all that. And then it's quite possible I might be able to simplify more of this too. It's still kind of a monstrosity. I need to think about it, but I may be able to. Actually, this function's a big problem, and also this function is insane. It has all this like state stuff, like offset into character greater than this. And the other big issue with this so the range over which this iterates, I think, is larger than it needs to be. I'll have to come back to that, but I think that once I have that change adapted, then and the problem is to make it work in the case where there's a multi-column character that gets partially cut off by the edge of a layer to handle that case correctly. That makes it more complicated. And it'd be nice to make this faster and just simplify it. How fast is your machine? It's decently fast. I bought it like 2 or 3 years ago. It was a couple $1,000s to do. Although it's kind of disappointing and slow. Are you having to go through the whole screen every update, or can you just get away with dirty blit sort of thing? So I have a concept of change regions. So for every screen, the purpose of this function is to take an arbitrary number of layers, and each layer can be an arbitrary size. It can have arbitrary dimensions, and it can have arbitrary translations. So it can be translated. It could even be like not even on the base layer. And so the other complexity is multi-column characters. So if I run the game, yeah, and to answer your question more precisely, I have the concept of change regions, so that what it's supposed to do is if I make the change to a layer, it just specifies a square region within that layer that specifies the change. So for example, if I what it's supposed to do, which I think it does do at this point, if I move the cursor up, it makes a change region that consists of just here, where the smiley face is, and also where it was. And for this one, I have this in like a transparent layer, so it's as an offset down to here. So then I have to correctly calculate the translation. So this is actually just at like offset 1 1 and or 1 0 and or 0 0 and 1 0 in its own layer, and then it has the placement offset of the layers in the middle of the screen, and then it gets merged down, and there's a whole bunch of calculations. Now the other complexity, one of the big benefits and advantages of this whole model was, and actually on this terminal, I don't have it as much because these characters are only technically counted as one column, but actually, you know, if I could find some like iron ore, I can illustrate. Okay, there we go. So here we go. So in this case, see how the menu is single column characters, and the menu in this case, it's a layer on top. It partially occludes the 2-column character below it, and making the layer merging process work for that case. Like, it seems like a stupidly nitpicky thing, but I just had a whole bunch of bugs related to this, so that's why that was the reason for this whole fancy layer merging thing, is to come up with an algorithm so that for when I merge down onto a multi-column character, or even if one multi-column character merges onto another one. What are the rules? And so I had to think of what it actually does is if it partially occludes the multi-column character, it translates all those characters to it basically just disappears, and it becomes spaces in every column. But then the column, for the background color has to be evaluated for every single column individually. Because for this one, if I took this for this 2-column character, if I just inherit the first column, what it would do is it put it would be like a green background sticking out here, and it would just look weird. It would look like it's glitched. And there's a bunch of variations of that. Can you run NeoFetch? NeoFetch. What exactly is NeoFetch? Naively, we just mangled the multi-column characters when the layers were merged. Naively, so the reason we're at day 127 and the game hasn't changed much. The way the game works, every frame is in a different thread, and to make the game playable, I had to do all these like difference calculations and stuff. So I actually had like 6 different layer merging functions originally, and some of them were like position independent, some of them were frame, offset, relative, and stuff. So I over the last, it's been like at least 50 days now, I've refactored that, kind of like incrementally refactored it. I got it down to 2 different functions, and then over the last 30 days, I got those 2 merge functions simplified to generalized to 1 merge function, and then I added the extra feature of arbitrary dimensions for layers, so it's not re-evaluating the whole screen. I can actually have like a layer, a small layer, and operating on that for in the future if I want to have button graphics or something like that. I can just draw in a simple layer and then merge only that down. And so the naive implementation was just filled with bugs. It would just, depending on which buggy function it went through, sometimes it was just rendering a null in that position, and it would just show up as a black spot on the screen, and then I would be like, maybe we can fix this way, and then I'd get different errors, and it would duplicate things, and But eventually I just decided, you know what, I'll just write a fuzz tester. If you saw that, those flashing screens that were on before, that's what that was. NeoFetch is a command line system information tool for Linux and other Unix-like operating systems. Displays visually appealing summary of your system's hardware and software details, alongside your distribution's logo and image. Written in Bash. Interesting. I've heard of that. I don't think I've ever used it. Can answer the how powerful your system is question. This one here is actually an old laptop. My mother main one is over there. What was your correctness criteria for the fuzz tester? The correctness criteria, like the correctness algorithm was, if you can imagine, it basically is so imagine you have like your stacked layers of arbitrary size, of arbitrary transparency, and they're divided into a grid of columns. So one ASCII column width. For any multi-column characters, the algorithm was, if you imagine like sunlight shining down on it, any multi-column character that ends up having a full shadow on it or a partial shadow, that I consider that an occluded character. So multi-column or a single column. And any occluded character does not show up. So it always shows the topmost character in the layer, the topmost non-occluded character. And if there is a column where it's part of a multi-column character, that gets converted to an ASCII space. And furthermore, at every individual column, there's a separate calculation that's made, which basically just it iterates through all the layers, and it checks to see whatever layer, the topmost layer, that has a non-empty set of colors. So, for example, that was a thing I had. Actually, that was that was probably the main catalyst behind like thinking like, I gotta rehash this whole model in order to make it to improve the usability in the terminal. So this here emoji character, to print this, I have to print the emoji, so I have to set the ANSI color codes before I print this. So I have to explicitly set the background, like, because there's no, like, it's literally just a terminal. So I'm printing text, and then as I move over here, when I move over here, it has to be smart enough to print the happy face with a different, it's to switch to the background color. So this is a solid character that's still on top. It still has to print that character, but it has to be smart enough to look at the layer below it at every point here. And I'll always use the underneath, the underlayer for the background color. So if I find a piece of, well, if I go up actually, so if I go over this, it has the background red. And the other criteria was if there's a multi-column character that somehow ends up in the edge of a layer, if it gets cut off, then that's the same thing as it being included. So it just gets converted to spaces. And if that multi-column character had its own background color, then the spaces will have that background color. And so that's the definition of correctness for the fuzz tester. And there's also a bunch of stuff I added in it to for tracking like change flags and stuff, which I was using before to speed things up, but I don't. It's kind of not really using that, but it is still. I might be able to squeeze some performance out of using that change flag. And there's also an active flag, so I can deactivate specific columns in the layer and a few other features. Game Dev Chad says, "Hi Robert, how's it going?" Hopefully you made lots of money in the stock market today. I guess, yeah, it was probably open today. It's Friday. Make lots of money before the epic market crash that we're in for. It seems like we must be bound for some kind of massive economic event in the near future. I don't know when it'll happen though. The real estate market's starting to buckle. Didn't follow one of my rules and got whacked. Oh, that's too bad. That's the thing about the market. It's I mean, you feel awesome when you win, but there's so many videos of. I remember back when I was into it, there was people who talked about their trading stuff on these forums all the time, and they posted their trades and like, man, I'm making so much money. And then they seemed like a genius, and then the market tanked and things didn't go their way. You'll rip the heart out when you don't win. I'm banking on everybody suddenly getting rich. You're banking on it? How will that happen though? I think a small number of people will get rich. The people that control Wall Street. Everybody going broke is too predictable. Boring to bet on a sure thing. Yeah, there should be a way to bet in the market that everyone has a good time. They should add that to the prediction markets. If it's boringly predictive, doesn't that mean simply profitable? That's true. How's the world domination looking? Where are we at? We're doing pretty good. We're making some progress on the terminal block mining simulation game. We got one new member tonight in support of the campaign. So it's coming along. Just a few more streams. Yeah, I think maybe like 3 or 4. I think we'll be good. I successfully resurrected the Dell XPS 720. Nice. How old is it? $20 old. If you've never seen a Dell XPS 720, you gotta look it up. They're iconic. Won't find them anywhere. You know, that term actually sounds familiar. I did own, there was like an old business laptop that I bought. Or a business desktop that I bought. It was an old Dell computer. I used it for backups for a while, but eventually I just tore it down. I kept the RAM out of it. Pile of old Android phones. You could turn them into a supercomputing cluster. Yeah, I got a bunch of old phones too. I've yet to find a use for them. I think the big issue is the batteries go bad. But if you got desperate, you could probably keep them running with, like if you wanted to be adventurous and you figure out your exact battery voltage, you could just use like a bench power supply, or like just like you could just hardwire them if you can find something that has the same voltage. If you're gonna toss them anyway, maybe you could take the risk of overvolting them or something. Sounds like a trick is to solder the power supply right in there. Yeah, if you're if you have a bit of experience just like kind of making your own power supplies, you could probably as long as you're working with like low voltage DC stuff, you can probably, like without too much effort or expense, you can probably just wire it up yourself. It's kind of like a, even like a wall wart thing. As long as you're working with the wires that are on the low voltage DC side, don't mess with the high voltage end. If only I had some supercomputing to do. I don't know, you could run some AI on there. Robert, are you ready? Yep, I'm ready. What do you do? I'm new to the channel. I will show you. So I'm working on developing a terminal-based video game where you simulate the process of mining blocks of iron ore. Could fold proteins or something. Now I could do AI. That's the fad right now. Robert Elder Software, how did you become dangerous? I got a video on that. Just search for how I became dangerous. Get a lot of joy out of bringing old tech back to life. Yeah, and it's especially good when you actually get some use out of it. I get a surprising amount of life out of my old laptops. Yeah, so someone asked about what I do. So I'm working on this terminal-based video game. And here's what it looks like. You wander around an infinite procedurally generated universe. You spam the M key to mine blocks. There's some iron ore. You mine that, it goes in your inventory. And you can also select the pickaxe. So better pickaxe mines out to a larger radius. And that's it. That's tough, not gonna lie. Wish you all the best, President RES. Thank you very much for the kind words. I've had Frankenstein PCs over the years, but never resurrected anything as exotic as an Android phone. Yeah, a phone, you'd have to find the software that runs on it. Actually, I don't really even have a lot of experience running alternative operating systems on phones. They seem like a pretty like a locked down platform. All right, let's see. I may have. I think I've got lots of code that uses that pattern. Now I have to update it all. All right, that's the validation code, which does not need to work. Grown men should be using KDE, not GNOME. GNOME for Cocomelon users. I'm not really much into customizing. I just want to get work done, so I just use the default. It takes so much time to customize everything. I went through a phase where I tried to do that, but by the time I get it working, I'll have to update the OS, and then I'm just constantly like fixing config files and debugging weird bugs that no one else has ever experienced, and scrounging on forums, and no thanks. Have you seen UXN? Seems very interesting for older hardware, designed to run on NES originally. I've not. Is it for mobile devices? Sort of a universal VM targeting very minimum common denominator. Okay. What does this do? This is a terminal-based video game where you can simulate the process of mining blocks of iron ore. I'll do a demo here. Interesting. Viewers is going up. It's so random how YouTube just randomly decides to throw a bunch of new people in all at once. Yeah, so this is the game. So you can wander around in 3D in an infinite procedurally generated universe. And you spam the M key to mine blocks. So we can find some ore here. And there's some iron ore. There we go. So there's some ore. We just spam the M key to mine the blocks. And then they go into your inventory. And you can press the C key to craft. And that's pretty much it for the basic game loop. Currently I'm working on improvements to the screen updating process, so it's a bit laggy right now. And the goal is going to be to improve it a little bit, improve the performance a bit. Is this vanilla VI? No, it's it has when I use if I just use vanilla VI, I know the syntax highlighting will be all messed up. So I'm sure at some point of sudo apt get installed Vim, and then I think it symlinks VI to Vim. Do you get C tags and whatnot and whatnot out of the box with Vim? Actually, I don't even know what C tags is. And I've used Vim for many years. I'm back when I first learned it. I learned like a lot of features in Vim, like how to set marks and stuff like that, and then I kind of settled on a certain pattern of use, and then I everything else I totally forgot. I think in terms of out of the box with Vim. So I don't use any plugins at all. Back when I first started, I did try out a bunch of them, but I found that, especially if I'm going between computers and stuff, it makes sense to invest the time in learning like how to leverage a small subset of behaviors. Otherwise, I'm constantly chasing like the broken behavior of my plugins. Oh, I broke something. Only 876. Oh, I initialized that wrong. All right. I think someone asked about the unit test I was running before. This is my fuzz testing suite. So if I, what it does is it just creates a random layer. So this doesn't make sense to anyone but me, but the point here is this just represents a layer with a bunch of random characters. So here we've got the pound represents, it starts with an empty area, and then after that it's followed by a 4-column character, and then it's just empty. So that's an input layer 2. And then below it is layer 1. So then this layer gets merged down onto this one. And they each have arbitrary placement offset. So this thing just goes through and tries to compute what it thinks the output should be. And just randomly activates and deactivates parts of layers and has arbitrary change regions. There's also edge cases where I talked about how you can have like a single column character and you merge it down onto a multi-column character on a layer below you. And to be fast, the algorithm tries to only review the area it needs to, which is the change region, but that has to be expanded if the layer below it includes a multi-column character, because it has to consider what to do with the part of the character that's getting cut off. So that adds more complexity. C-tags give you some language level info for integer features like go to definition, rename symbol. Okay. Yeah, I think having like a language server integration is on that same kind of vein. This would have been great for the projector displaying to rave. Yeah, people do seem to like the output. Not sure why this stream showed up in my recommended. I have no clue what's happening right now, but I'm fascinated. Keep up the good work. Thank you. I just running some unit tests to make sure I didn't break anything tonight. But yeah, everyone's recommended me to use NeoVim. So if I do get around to apparently NeoVim has good language server support. So but I've yet to experiment with it. People always recommend that I learn new stuff, but I already know enough to get done the work that I need to do. I just need to do it. For now, I'm gonna ignore that and try to get to the next goal. And with that, I'll probably call it a night. We're past midnight. I got a little bit of progress done tonight. Actually, let me check. There's that glitch, screen drawing glitch. I meant to look for that. I didn't see that bug appear tonight. Hopefully that's gone forever. So that would mean that there's no more regressions, and we're still just working on improving efficiency. So the roadmap now is I'm going to try to update the references. So whenever I set a multi-column character, I used to just set character widths of 0 after the starting character. I'm going to update the references so that I have like one function that I use whenever I set a multi-column character. And all right, that looks good to there now. Yeah, so the current implementation, so for every column, I have like, so if I have single column characters, I'd have 1, 1, 1, and then when we have a multi-column character, I just go 2, and then 0, and then 1. So that's how it goes. Then if I had like a 3-column character, I'd go 3, 3, 0, 0. So that's how my internal implementation works of when dealing with the multi-column stuff. So when the printing function goes through, it says, okay, this is going to be 2 columns wide, so print that. And then here, print nothing, because you don't want to overwrite the half part of that. And I am planning to change this to do this. So that'll be -1, -1. And if I do it this way, this will have the property such that, oh yeah, and all along, and so if there's actually nothing at that position, there's just a 0. So that means if I come up to this character and I see a -2, that means if I jump -2, I will get to the start of the character and I'll see what the width is. And it also means if I jump onto this, I will know the offset into the character that I am, because it's the negative of whatever that value is. And so this, what this prevents in the algorithm is the case, the rather like general extraneous case is like, what if I have a character over here that's 1,000? So this is one of the cases that's slowing it down. Which like that never happens, but the algorithm doesn't know that. You would just have to like assume a max width character, which is kind of problematic. So now it'll be this. Thanks for sharing in my XPS 720 Resurrection excitement. Today was a special day. Yes, it was indeed. Congrats. If your computer died, it might just be the RAM all along. That's true. Make sure you run memtest though. Alright, have a good night, guys.